What is up, guys? Private Eye Russ here. Welcome to another episode of the Private Eye Russ Show. I'm your host, Private Eye Russ, owner, operator, full service private investigation and consulting company, corporate theft investigations, litigation support, criminal defense investigations, long term relationship or premarital investigations, background checks. I've got you covered. If you need one on one personal development coaching, reach out to me at russ at privateeruss.com. It'll be linked in the description below, or send me a direct message on X at privateeruss. Please, while you're here, it's free for you, very valuable to me and trying to grow this channel and community. Like, subscribe, share, comment, please. All right, and feed the YouTube algorithm. I try to keep things YouTube friendly, but the more you guys feed it, you guys are the biggest. You have the biggest effect on how the channel is viewed and whether it gets pushed out to more people. So please do that one thing. All right, so I want to give a philosophical question. Then I'm going to give a not channel update, but a social media update. Well, I'll do the social media update first. I'm not going to be posting on X as frequently. I used to post on X a lot, but again, I've been suspended almost half a dozen times. Then I got, they don't call it shadow banned, but I got my visibility was restricted. For what reason? I have no idea what reason. There's literally all types of adult material on X. You're not even subscribed to these channels. You'll see things, you're scrolling through, and all of a sudden you see whatever you see. You see people getting harmed and deleted, animals getting harmed and deleted, all types of racial epithets, all types of just filthy, just horrible stuff. But my stuff gets, I get suspended and get shadow banned. Doesn't make any sense. Elon Musk said it was going to be more about freedom of speech. I don't really see it. And I've talked to other people who've had the same experience. And so the juice just isn't worth the squeeze to keep writing stories. I take time to write. I wrote a bunch of nice stories on X. I'm going to be doing those on YouTube in video format instead of on X. Instead of, being up writing something for an hour to present it to people on X, for it to be limited, I'm going to be focusing more and more on putting that content here on YouTube. So you guys will be able to see that along with a lot of other stuff I've put on there as well too. I'll put them in video format. And so hopefully you guys enjoy those. I think they're actually some really good stuff. I'm going to be putting out a bunch of shorts very, very shortly. I think you guys are going to love the new format that I have with the shorts. I got an idea that I want to do, and so let me know what you guys think once I start doing it. I won't be doing it this weekend, probably later on this week. You guys will know when it comes out. Okay, so that out of the way. And I will be posting here pretty much every day on YouTube. Whether it's a reaction video, story time video, or like this one is going to be a format with I'm not reacting to anything. I'm just going to be giving you guys some food for thought. And so please hit up the comment section. Don't be shy. Okay, so two subjects. There's doing the right thing or doing what's right. They might sound the same, but they're not. Right? They sound the same, but they are not the same. And so I'll give you guys an example, and I'll tell you guys what I mean. Okay, doing the right thing, what does that mean? Cross the T's, dot the I's, do all the things that we're told to do, and we usually do because that's what we've been trained to do. Not necessarily because it's the best thing to do, but because we've been told it's the right thing to do. Or doing the right thing is how we should behave. And it doesn't always, present itself as the best option, but we do it because we kind of robotically follow certain rules that we're told to do. Okay, so give you a good example. All right, I was working on a negligent security case that involved a homicide. I've worked on a ton of homicides here in the state of Florida and other states, but a lot here in Florida. Over 80 homicides in Florida. And so the way it works is if someone is deleted, not through any malfeasance, not while they're committing a felony, then that's no good. Say if they go to a shopping plaza or something like that, and there's a known crime issue in that area, the loved ones who are left over, or if the person is still alive, can sue for a settlement, for an insurance settlement. Okay, so I've worked on a bunch of these. So during the course of those settlements, you get to you get to find out a lot of information. Oftentimes, I'll find information that the police don't have privy to. And so at the tail end of one of these cases, the family of a young man who was deleted um, with a pew pew commissioned me directly. So before then, I was working on their case, but I was working for the attorney. They hired me directly and they said, look, we want to know who did this and we want them brought to justice. Okay, now typically I don't go looking for things of this nature. However, if I accept an assignment, I accept an assignment and I'm going to carry it through. All right, so I start doing my thing, working, you know, turning over leaves and kicking tires and all the rest of it, knocking on doors. And during the course of my investigation, I actually speak to and have a conversation with a man who, family guy, wife, 2 kids, who saw the whole thing from start to finish from his kitchen window while he was doing dishes. So he goes over the whole thing with me, and the police completely had the series of events wrong. Now, not through any incompetence or malfeasance on their part, but just because it just, there was no way for them to actually know what happened. And so he showed me on Google Earth, and I made a map, and we shot a video, and everything's all good. And so, I didn't reach out to the family. I said, okay, how do I handle this? Okay, doing the right thing would have been to turn that information directly over to the deputies. Well, here in the state of Florida, witnesses and are known for, um, you know, um, being deleted or harmed in many, many different ways. And I've actually worked on cases where those have happened as well too. Maybe I'll tell you guys about some of those as well too. Really, really shocking stories, some of them. So this guy saw everything. He didn't go forward to the police because he is an illegal immigrant. But not just that. He lived in a neighborhood where this guy's gang had a very heavy, heavy presence. They used to sell, let's say, unauthorized urban pharmaceuticals out of this apartment complex. And it's a big apartment complex or housing complex, I guess you could call it. Here in Florida, there aren't very many high rises. So how do we handle this situation? If I turn this information over to the investigator on the case, which would be doing the right thing, right? This man's life might not be worth 2 nickels. Police here are notorious for, like, there's no way, they don't have any provision to protect guys or women or witnesses. So they'll ask people, they will ask people to come forward, but there really will be no way for them to live without fear of imminent death. And this particular gang was known for making people disappear. So what do? Okay. I sit back. I said, all right. I had to talk with the guy, and he said he wanted to move to New York anyway with his family, but he didn't have the money. So I helped him out of pocket. I helped him move to New York. And so once he got settled in New York, we talked about it, and I said, look, I want to turn this over to the investigator, and he said, okay, but just I don't want to because what happens is. One of the cases I worked on, the detective, they got their paperwork and everything else. I don't know if it got unredacted by accident, but this witness's name and address wound up on the unredacted police report, which is available to the defense attorney as well as the prosecutor and everybody else. And so they pretty much signed this. Excuse me. They pretty much signed this individual's death warrant by inadvertently, doxing him, right, as it were, and doxing a witness. And it was incredibly, it was just egregious. And there was a certain amount of incompetence involved. I don't know if it was on the investigator's side or some clerical error by the clerk of the court. It doesn't matter. The person still wound up losing their life. And it was this same jurisdiction. And so, I didn't know who did it. I didn't know who was responsible for it. And that was not a mosquito. That was not, that wasn't the point. The point was to try to keep this guy safe. He was kind enough to give me information. Last thing I'm going to do is throw this guy under the bus, you know what I mean? And throw him to the wolves, as it were. So he gets to New York. I give him the number of a friend of mine. I grew up in New York. I grew up in the South Bronx, actually. And the guy gets him some work. He's not making union wages. It's a, but he's making money doing some roofing. His family's, up there and trying to get settled in. So I contact the investigator and I was like, look, I want to talk to you face to face. Usually, because I know a lot of the investigators, I wanted to talk to them face to face. And I said, hey, look, this particular homicide? And he was like, yeah. I was like, you guys got the situation wrong. I said, I know this dude is already in jail, already in prison, excuse me, but I can shed some light on this for you. However, I have a condition. You know what I mean? And cops typically don't like conditions. However, I have a pretty good relationship with them. They know that they know I'm an investigator, and they know I'm not out there doing bad things. They know that part of what I do is I use some of my private eye time and powers to search for missing and exploited children. Maybe I'll tell you guys about some of that stuff, obviously leaving names and things like that out. But they understand I'm trying to work on the good side of things, not the bad side of things. I'm not out doing committing felonies or anything like that. So he's like, okay, what do you got? And I showed him and I said, look, I said, this guy, I said, he moved to New York. And he's like, oh, when did you do that? I said, well, I helped him move to New York. And he was like, why? I said, well, this guy's gang is still here. They're still in that apartment complex. He was worried about coming forward because he was, his status is he's an illegal immigrant. And he was like, okay. And so they agreed to help him with the immigration side of things. They agreed to let him do whatever he needed to do from New York. And, I turned over the video evidence I had and the Google Earth map and everything else. And, it wound up working out. And so if I had done the right thing, I would literally have been signing this guy's death warrant and send him to the gallows. These guys would take you out. Instead, I did what was right. Now, some people don't like that. I get it. And I don't care. I really don't care. I'm going to do what I know to be the right thing to do. My job can be somewhat complex. Sometimes, things like surveillance and things like that, they're pretty simple, even though those can actually wind up being complex sometimes as well, too, as I well know. And if you have been on surveillance, things can happen. However, when I'm dealing with things like homicides, corporate theft investigations, intellectual property theft, corporate espionage, those can get extremely complicated. And at the end of the day, you've got to live your life in such a way and conduct yourself business-wise so that you can live with the result. I'm not going to put someone in harm's way. I'm never going to be the guy who puts someone in a position where they wind up getting deleted. If you guys hear any noise in the background, it's one of my dogs snoring. He's an older dog, and older dogs just make weird noises. So he's just him. So consider that as you go through your day-to-day life. Doing the right thing is not always the right thing to do, and that's the point of this particular talk. You have to weigh one against the other, and sometimes there are consequences. But in this particular instance, I explained to the detective. I didn't lie to him. I didn't lie to him, but I explained to him exactly what happened, and he actually appreciated the fact that I put so much thought into it, and he actually appreciated the fact that I got the guy out of harm's way because he said, look, we don't have a way to protect them. We can't offer them any sort of protection. They don't have the resources to do that. Now, okay, if you call the police, they'll show up, but that's no more protection than anybody else has. And if you have a gang that's known for being particularly violent, targeting you for deletion, odds are they're going to be able to get you if they're really determined. So, and I explained to him, the case I worked on from the civil side before to try to find out who leaked that information, and the cases I've worked where witnesses had been deleted. He understood 100%. And he was actually really, really cool about it. It could have gone a different way. I've had police kind of not really be in favor of some of the things I've done. Maybe I'm a little bit unorthodox at times, but I am effective. Anyway, that was just some of my philosophical musings. Hopefully, you guys found it helpful. Hopefully, it makes you think about and measure your actions a little bit more thoughtfully, just based on some of the stuff I've dealt with. So anyway, it's your boy Private Eye Russ. That was just a quick philosophical musing, I guess you could call it. I might do another one of these, but in the meantime, please like, subscribe, share, and populate that comment section. That's a big part of things. Anyway, I'll talk to you guys later. Private Eye Russ, out.